Thank you for that. Well, here we go, folks. Are you ready? Give me a thumbs up. Wake yourself up a little bit. Get yourself going. Get your heart pumping. Get your blood pumping. Here we go. Got to remember some stuff. Number one, we're going to start off here with the females. Ladies go first. And then I want Robin to definitely chime in on this and give some male and female as we go through each spot. And if anytime we hit something while we're going through, go ahead and unmute. And it might be better. I know Robin's going to be watching, so if you throw up your hands, she'll catch you, and we'll be able to answer a question. And we're going to just take this as we go through. So number one, which we talked about some of these in church 2 weeks ago, and then we're going to see what the equivalent for the males are. But for number one, a woman needs to feel, she needs to know she is understood. So number one, a woman needs to be understood. Now, again, see, this is not just relationship. Women with women's groups, friends, coworkers. This really is an intrinsic desire for a woman to be understood. Yes, unique. Yes, different in the room. Yes, there's the femininity about her. However, they want to be understood. So across the board, we could say that just about, there might be some women out there it's not, but usually because they haven't been getting, which you can talk about, but that understanding. So number one for understanding is you let her vent to you. So you will see this where females, when the ladies get together, they let each other kind of vent to one another, kind of understand that. So this is really good for the men to hear that they need to feel understood. So how do they start feeling understood? Is they actually will vent. Now, what does that mean to vent? That means to think. So for men, we might think venting is anger or pure frustration or kicking the tire. And for women, it's not so much always angry. Sometimes there is frustration. Sometimes there is a sense of complaining or contempt. However, venting for ladies is about them thinking through the process. So if they have somebody to talk to, that's venting for them. And it might come, my point is they could also vent in positives or worries, or it can be all over the board, different things that they want to, but it is also positive and negative, and they want to vent. So I'm just saying that for the men, because sometimes they think what that means for us, if us men were talking and we started to vent, that's different than saying what a female will do when we say she needs to vent, she needs to talk, she needs to express. Number two, you will need to validate her feelings, validate those emotions. A lot of times, and this is kind of a general rule, especially for the men, the women kind of get it and they don't talk about it. Women talking with women because they kind of know how to talk to other women because they are female, the femininity there. So this is maybe a little bit for the men, for us to just understand this more. We need to validate those feelings. Many times the females won't know what they're feeling until they have vented or talked about it. So that's kind of the catch-22. If they don't get to talk, they're experiencing something, but they haven't been able to talk about it. So we understand that they are, when they talk, they are actually thinking. Why is that so different for us men? Is because when men think, if we don't understand, we tend to go inside. We tend to kind of go into I call it a cave. Men go into their cave to think. So for ladies, when the man gets quiet, he's not distancing himself all the time. He may not know what to say. And so he distances himself because he's going to go in and he talks. Where a lady kind of wants, you're having struggles, you're having trouble. The ladies will want the men to talk it out because that's how the women think. But men think internally, even extrovert men. I call it the cave. They go into the cave, and sometimes they'll poke their head out of the cave just to get an answer to a question. They'll go back in. But once they've figured it out, once they maybe have a grasp on it, then they come back out of the cave. So a man will talk once he comes out. But for a woman, validating those feelings. So number one is vent. Number two, validate. And validate those feelings. Validating feelings for men is not just telling her no or that they don't make sense. Feelings are feelings. And one of the greatest things one of the areas that destroys relationships is the male and female assigning. Let me see how to say this. The females will assign importance to different topics, different than men will assign importance to different topics, and that clash drives each other apart. So when we say validate her feelings, we're wanting to go to her perspective, but even greater than just her perspective, that she's actually having an emotional response, positive, negative, and we're understanding it. We want to understand her, but we're not applying an understanding to it. We're trying to get their understanding. So in the process of that, sometimes they will discover it themselves, and then we'll be able to share that. But it is a validation process. Number 3, don't try to solve the problem. We want to just focus on the listening. And so I've kind of given the key to this, and again, throughout the years, a lot of men just haven't understood this, and we can learn to understand this, that as men, we're trying to fix things. Well, here's the thing that they haven't told us, that the ladies in our lives, they're trying to fix it as well, and they really are not looking forward to other people fixing them. If they haven't said that, they're just not looking forward to it. So again, if we're listening to them, they're working the math problem out. They're working the emotional problem out. They're working the social figures out. They're working all kinds of things out when they're talking. So we're looking for decisions when they talk. They're just looking for that. So as a man, we say, okay, I'm not looking to solve the problem. I'm looking to have you solve the problem. So when we're listening, what we're doing is we're helping them. We're giving them the tools. They need us there. If it's not us, it'll be somebody else, to allow them the opportunity to talk it out. And while they're doing their talking it out. And so we don't want to solve it. You keep listening to them, and they might ask questions, and they might want, again, some validation. They may need to have somebody to vent to them as we go through that circle. But eventually, the reason we don't have to fix the problem is eventually, just about all the time, they themselves will come up with the answer to the problem. They themselves. And when men are always fixing the problem for the females, they don't walk away fulfilled. They don't walk away completed. They don't walk away happy. Now, this might be the hard part. This is where I'm hoping Robin will chime in, because I don't want to be the masculine voice telling women. I want to hear it also from the ladies, so that it'll also help the other ladies, because the Bible does say to allow the more mature or the older women to teach the younger women. So it's very, very important that, yes, I can stand in a place of authority. However, we need to know that this is coming from the females as well. So, Miss Robin, those are the 3 areas: vent, feelings, and don't try to solve the problem, but instead focus on them. What would you say to this, and what could you add to this?
Well, Pastor, you did a great job. I have to say that already. But I would say, like, for key number 1, it says let her vent to you.
Yeah.
Speaking from my personal standpoint, and I think many women probably relate to this, is like, so like when a woman vents, I call it thinking out loud.
Mm.
We tend to think out loud. So sometimes, like, I'll be in my house and I'll be thinking out loud, and I'm kind of like, I don't know if women do more when we get older, kind of like talk to ourselves, but it's more, to me, it's more you're thinking out loud, you're processing, so your ears can hear per se. Sometimes my husband would be like, "What are you talking to me?"
No, honey, it's okay. I'm not talking to you. I'm thinking out loud. I'm venting, as this teaching is calling it, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily looking for someone's input at that point. I mean, that doesn't mean that I won't want input somewhere along the line, but it usually starts with me thinking out loud per se. And then, to have interaction with someone, to actually be able to talk more on the issue, or a problem you're having or something of that nature. That's great, because a woman does need to talk about things. You know, guys need to talk about things too, but they tend to go more into their cave, like Pastor was talking about, compared to women like to talk to people outwardly about what's going on. And then the number two, validating our feelings. Women want to be heard. I mean, I can say that from my own personal standpoint. And not necessarily, like Pastor was saying, not necessarily like key number three was solving the problem. It's not necessarily that we want someone to come along and take care of this thing for us, but we want to be able to talk about it. Someone will actually be able to like hear us or listen to us, and just kind of break down the problem a little bit. And I know Pastor also mentioned this part about, taking care of the problem. You know, as a woman, we want to be also be independent, you know, as well, and be able to step up and take care of something. So if you're married, or if you're, you know, have a relationship where someone's responsible for this or that, if someone else is always taking care of everything, I mean, how would you ever mature? Like if I, you know, all these years of being married, if I never did some of the, you know, wifely duties in the house, I mean, I always had somebody else take care of everything. How would I even be mature in my place today, you know, if I never took care of anything myself? So I think that's one of the important things about, you know, it talks about men not solving the problem for a woman. It's kind of the way they're looking at this at the moment. So yeah, women aren't always wanting a guy to step in and solve every problem. Now I have to say, I've told this past before, there's a catch-22 when us women want our guys to step in and just take care of a problem. So hopefully we can give the guys some cues there as far as when that is. So, but that's kind of, you know, not really on this particular teaching, but I'm just letting the guys know that sometimes that does happen. But yeah, for the most part, we're looking to be heard, not looking for someone to wipe away the problem for us.
Good. Thank you so much for that. So those three keys equals for her to feel understood. And I really want to drive this point home. Many times we will, and of course, we've heard this over and over again, men saying, I don't understand her. I don't understand her. And so it's about, is she venting? Are you validating her feelings, understanding those feelings? There's the real catch. And are we listening to the point where they solve at least most of their problems? I heard a little bit of a catch there with Robin. She says, sometimes we do want that. But the more we learn that the ladies, the women in our life, and we're talking grandchildren, the young grandchildren, the ladies, are the children, whatever we're looking at here, when we start looking at the ladies in our life, there's many times they want us to fix it, but they can a lot of times fix it themselves. And again, much more satisfied, much more fulfilled. They can do something. They want to contribute. And so, yes and amen to that. So that's number one. We'll just go right on to number two here. And number two, women need to be seen. They need to feel that they're being seen. So here are the three topics there. Number one, regularly express what you appreciate about her. So we need to find out what it is that we appreciate, and we need to regularly. So that's probably more than once a year, maybe more than once a month, maybe more than once a week. Daily. What is it that we appreciate? Now, this is going to be a challenge for some of the guys, because women speak to us very highly in the world of what we call love and not respect. So a lot of times we're trained to love them, but many times we don't know if we respect them, and we respect men more than we love them. So we are trained to use the words, I love you, I love you, I love you. A masculine way of saying I love you is whether or not they name you. Well, about the time COVID hit, there was a gal who came to me, and she was talking about her her relationship. And at first I thought, he's speaking in masculine language. So I questioned this lady. I says, is he saying this and this and this and this? And she says, no. And I was looking for the masculine way, looking for the way a man would say, I love you. Like, this is my gal, my wife, my girl, my children, my car, right? My house. Anytime a guy says that, that's the equivalent to, I love you. A woman will say, I love you. A man will say, it's mine. But the man doesn't love it no more. Somebody will come over and say, is that your car? Yeah, it is. It's a completely different. He doesn't claim it no more. Yeah, it's on the way to the dump. I'm getting, he'll start disowning it. However, for men, appreciation, we have to see it without always knowing whether there's respect. We're seeing that respect. But if the first one's being done, we're going to start seeing the ladies take care of a lot of the problems. And there's going to be that respect there. With that respect, then we're starting to look for appreciation. Number 2, you want to leave electronics out and learn to give her your undivided attention. Leave the phone out. Leave the football out. Turn away from the kids. Now, I know this is going to be hard in a busy, fast-paced world, but you leave it out. You got to turn it off and eventually just turn to her and literally learn how to give her 100% of that time that is there. So, without a doubt, undivided attention. And the third one is take time to notice what goes unnoticed. Now, I will say that a lot of times we are really good at noticing what everybody else notices. However, she's looking to see if she can be seen in such a way that we're recognizing what goes unnoticed. And once we understand we're looking for those key changes, we're looking for something, they can be seen. So, again, appreciate her and express it. Give undivided attention. I know that doesn't have to be 24/7, but it is giving some time. And when you do give the time, make sure it's undivided. Some of the ways to do it, this is not what you have to do, but even if we're watching TV and if Robin says something, I pause it. We can pause the TV nowadays. I just stop it and I turn to her and we begin to, whatever the conversation, it doesn't have to be deep. But I pause it, I stop it. I stop what's going on around me and do my very best. I'm not, by no means am I saying I'm the master here. I'm just saying it's something I've done. I just said I can pause, which is really nice because back in the day, we weren't able to pause. And if you missed your show, you couldn't watch it again. So it was a little harder for me to give undivided attention to other than the sitcom on Monday night. That's a joke, but but we give that there. And of course, take some time and start noticing what goes unnoticed. And if you really want to gain her heart, see happiness, make sure that you're seeing things that her girlfriends and the other ladies don't see. All right, Miss Robin, that's what women need to be seen in the 3 topics there: appreciation, undivided attention, and notice what goes unnoticed.
All right. Well, I think I can speak for most women, and women want to be seen, whether it's by our husbands or friends, or we want to be seen usually, especially by our husbands. I know I do. I want to be seen by my husband. I want him to notice me. I want him to, like the first key was to appreciate me. A lot of times women will pull away, they'll pull back. Sometimes they'll do less because they don't feel appreciated. And if you want a woman to do more, notice that she's, notice her, I guess. Be just kind of straightforward and notice her, let her know that you appreciate certain things. And like Pastor said, even find something that nobody else is complimenting her about. And I would totally agree with the electronic devices when it comes to women, that if that cell phone, if that iPad, if that football game is more important than her, it's not going to meet her need of being seen. Now, I'm not saying that a man shouldn't watch a football game, if it's planned. I'm not saying that shouldn't be like a woman should say, no, you can't watch football, or no, you can't use your phone, or anything like that, because there's a time and a place for everything. But if the device becomes more important than her, if you can't stop for a moment, and go back to what you're doing, that's not going to help a woman be fulfilled in this portion of when it says women need to feel seen. Let's see anything else I can share on that. I guess one of the things I can say about feeling seen, for me as a married woman, when I am seen by my husband, there's a connection that happens, and which is very important. When you're married, you need to have a connection. Otherwise, you're going to, eventually you're just going to fall apart. So that's one of the needs of a woman, is to be seen. And that just makes your connection even stronger when a husband actually sees his wife. And Pastor talked a little bit about I'm trying to think of how he said it. He started talking about the car, and how you say, people ask you, is that your car? And if you didn't like your car, you'd be like, oh, well, yeah, that's my car, I suppose, and is a broken down jalopy or something. But there's been a phrase over the years that I have heard married men use, and it's the wife. And I have spoken with many gentlemen, and I said, do you understand what that's doing? That is not allowing your wife to be seen, because the is just the wife. There's no possession. You're not saying it's my wife. My wife indicates that you see her and she is yours. Where the wife, you're just a wife. You don't necessarily belong to anybody. And for myself, I would speak for myself specifically. I like to be called, when Pastor says my wife, that helps me to be seen by him. So that's what I have to share for that portion of it, Pastor, when women need to feel seen.
That's really good. So what she started to talk about there, the wife. So even if other men are training each other to use those kind of terms, if it's happening on the job or if it's a joking, the ball and chain, the wife, that's kind of the stuff that's said, behind the closed doors. You will want to definitely, as a man, definitely train yourself out of that. And I'm not, hey, if you're doing it on the job, it's one thing, but you don't want to ever get into the habit of not stating, because what you speak changes parts of who you are. So you understand that completely. So what she's saying is she, as a female, has figured out there is a masculine way of saying love and how she doesn't like the other. So it's the equivalent of saying either I love you or I hate you. So if I were to say the wife, that's really saying I'm actually not just criticizing her anymore. I am holding her in contempt. Out of the 4 horsemen for relationships, contempt is the number one killer of relationships. And contempt can be really easy seen with like what we call the rolling of the eyes. So we'd say a man's doing that, other than the rolling of the eyes, saying the wife. He's really living in an area of contempt. And the gal I was talking about, that's what this man was doing. And once I tested to see if it was just masculine forms of love, because it wasn't long. It was just a few months later, and they had been broken up and they got a divorce. He was living in contempt. So really awesome stuff there, Miss Robin. The next one is she needs to feel safe. So this is going to be really good for the men to hear as well. And we'll have Robin share it again. Number one, men, make decisions. Make a decision. Even if you need to make a decision and then reevaluate the decision, we need to be people that do that. So in the dating situation, we would train men, figure out what you're going to do. Take her someplace. Don't wait for her all the time. So a gentleman will say, I would like to take you to, and then name where he wants to go. And, you know, you can have some swagger about that for the dating folks out there, but you want to be able to do that. Hey, you know, and go out there. So make decisions. Why? Because it helps women feel safe. When a man is unwishy-washy. Now, in pure, you have to understand, in relationships, I'm just going to sidetrack just here for a moment, in relationships, and tell you that police officers have been studied, and police officers feel, what am I trying to say? Police officers feel more relaxed around the criminals than they do the other people working in the police force. Why is that? Because the criminals tell you exactly who they are, what they think of you, and the police officers don't have to worry at all. If they like you, they like you. If they don't, they don't. But one of the things that police officers, when they pull people over and they're working with the rest of the population, there's a lot of lying, there's a lot of deceiving, there's a lot of, I'm not telling you everything. And that stress knocks a lot of our police officers out. We think it would be the crime. It's not the crime. It's not knowing who they can trust around them. So think about females, the ladies in our life the same way. We're wishy-washy. We're not making decisions, and that makes them feel unsafe. So the Bible says, let your yes be a yes, let your no be a no. Number one. Number two, put her first. Make sure she's first. Show her that she is a priority. Now, in this day and age, it's real hard at times because the women marry the children and men marry work. So for men, we have to come back and say the wife comes first. And even in the home, we got to make sure that the wife comes before the children. I would say things like, don't ever side with your children over your wife. Now, I went real crazy. I'm just going to share my testimony again. I'm not a master at this, but I told my children, even if my wife's wrong, even if my wife, Robin, is wrong, she's right. That's what I told my kids. I'm standing with her. We're going to figure it out. And if we change our minds, we're going to change our minds. But I never stood with my kids. So you just want to make sure she's number one. Make sure she's up there. She's the closest to your heart. She's the closest to your destiny being fulfilled. She's the closest one to spiritual breakthroughs in your life. She can make or break. So keep her number one, and it helps her feel safe. In other words, she's still a priority in your life. And for a lot of times I brought up the work because we see men make work a priority, however, and they start to lose the wife as a priority, just making her number one. You don't have to do nothing special, just make her number one. Now the third one is you want to be there, be the rock, and be reliable. So when it says a man should be a rock for the wife, what does that mean? The man should be reliable. Let your yes be yes, let your no be no. If you say you're going to be there, be there. If you make a promise, try to do everything in your will to make it come to pass. If you can't be there, make sure it's a real reason and not just laziness. And she starts to see that she can feel safe with those three. Making decisions, putting her first, and being there, being her rock, and being reliable. Miss Robin?
Well, the first thing I have to say is Pastor is being completely honest when he shared with us about what he said about our kids. He said that even if mom's wrong, mom's right. So that really is true. And he stood by that. I wanted to express that first. As far as feeling safe or unsafe as a woman, as a wife, it's huge. It is huge. I have to be honest. One of the not like a main reason, but when I got married, there was a safety in it. I saw my husband before we even got married as a very safe person. I trust my life with him that, he would do all he could do to protect me. And I still feel that way to today, that he would, keep me safe as the best he could. And of course, there's always underlying things you can't control, but I do believe that he would do his very best to protect me. But one of the things I can share about the wishy-washy is totally not, does not help a woman feel safe at all. And so one of the things I love about my relationship with my husband is the fact that he's very outgoing, and he also can be I'm trying to think. I can't think of the word all of a sudden. Spontaneous. Thank you. Spontaneous is the word. And I'm not spontaneous. I'm like, okay, tomorrow we will do this, or maybe on Saturday we're going to do this. But he might be like, let's go in the morning, or let's go tonight. But what I want to share about that part is, yes, he's spontaneous, and that's great. And that's one of the things I really love about him. A lot of times I'm getting drug along per se for the ride. I'm holding on, but I always feel safe because, of course, he has a history with me as well. But I always feel safe because even though it's spontaneous, I know that 9 times out of 10, or maybe almost 10 out of 10, he has done his research. He already knows. I have confidence that he knows ahead of time where we're going, what we're getting into, and what he needs to look out for so that, we can be safe. So that's one thing that I think is, women need to feel safe. I personally need to feel safe. And that's one thing that my husband does for me, even in a outgoing manner. As far as putting women first, women definitely want to be number one, especially in their husband's life. And I can tell you that if you put your wife first, you'll receive all she has. She'll give you everything she has, as much love, care, tenderness, kindness as she has within her. You'll get it all. And then let's see, the last one was be her rock, be reliable. I can tell you a story. When I worked out of the house, I worked for an employer versus, being self-employed or working for the church. And a story I can share with you is a lot of times I had to work late into the evening. It was, a lot of times it was even way after dark, and I could always trust my husband to be available. I did not care for walking in the dark to my car. I don't know about other women, but I guess that's me. I'll just be honest. I didn't always feel safe walking across a dark parking lot, but I could always rely on him to be on the other end of the phone if I wanted to just call him and talk to him while I walked, in the dark per se. So that's for me, a really good example to share about how a woman needs to have a reliable person, reliable husband, reliable friend in their life. Is just, it's huge. And for a woman to be able to be safe, feel safe with her husband, I would say I feel the most safe when I'm with my husband. Pastor?
Yeah, thank you so much.